We are living legends. Know thyself, and you shall know all of the mysteries of the gods and of the universe.
For more spirit science content, give a thumbs up and like. Don't forget to subscribe to stay in tune, and hit the bell for new spirit science videos. Spirit science of the day. Ancient Egyptian symbols. Amenta. This symbol represents the underworld or land of the dead. Originally it meant the horizon of the sunset. Later, it became the symbol of the west bank of the Nile, where the sun set and also where the Egyptians traditionally buried their dead. Uhid. This symbol represents the horizon from which the sun emerged and disappeared. The horizon thus embodied the idea of both sunrise and sunset. It is similar to the two peaks of the Jew or mountain symbol with solar disk in the center. Both the beginning and the end of each day was guarded by Aker, a double lion god. Uhid. In the New Kingdom, Harmaket, Horus in the horizon, became the god of the rising and setting sun. He was pictured as a falcon, or as a sphinx with the body of a lion. The Great Sphinx of Giza is an example of Horus in the horizon. Ankh. Symbol of eternal life. The gods are often seen holding an ankh to someone's lips. This is considered to be an offering of the breath of life. The breath you will need in the afterlife. Canopic jars. During mummification the internal organs were removed and placed in 4 containers. These containers often have human or animal-headed stoppers. The word, canopic, comes from the Greek name of the local god of Canopus in the Nile Delta, who is represented as a human-headed pot. Cartouche. Or Shanu. More commonly known as a cartouche. The shape represents a loop of rope in which a name is written. A protector of that name. Hejada. The white crown. This was the crown of Upper Egypt. Southern. Skend. The double crown, the red crown and the white crown put together to represent a unified Egypt. Although Egypt was not always a unified nation, it was stronger that way. Therefore unification was desirable. Narmer, Menes, the founder of the first dynasty around 3100 BC, was the first man recorded wearing this crown. Atef. The Atef crown was worn by Osiris. It is made up of the white crown of Upper Egypt and the red feathers are representative of Busiris, Osiris's cult center in the Delta. Presh. The blue crown was a ceremonial crown often worn in battle. Deshret. The red crown. This was the crown that represented Lower Egypt, Northern Jew, which means mountain. The symbol suggests 2 peaks with the Nile Valley in the middle. The Egyptians believed that there was a cosmic mountain range that held up the heavens. This mountain range had 2 peaks. The western peak was called Manu, while the eastern peak was called Baku. It was on these peaks that heaven rested. Jew. Each peak of this mountain chain was guarded by a lion deity, whose job it was to protect the sun as it rose and set. The mountain was also a symbol of the tomb and the afterlife, probably because most Egyptian tombs were located in the mountainous land bordering the Nile Valley. In some texts we find Anubis, the guardian of the tomb, being referred to as he who is upon his mountain, Jew. Sometimes we find Hathor taking on the attributes of a deity of the afterlife. At this time she is called Mistress of the Necropolis. She is rendered as the head of a cow protruding from a mountainside. Fetish. An animal skin hanging from a stick. This is a symbol of Osiris and Anubis. Flail and crook. A symbol of royalty, majesty and dominion. Primordial hill. The Egyptians believed that during creation this hill rose out of the sea of chaos to create dry land. The idea of this hill rising had a profound effect on the Egyptians, being used as everything from temple layouts to the possible inspiration behind the pyramids. Ka. The Ka is usually translated as soul or spirit. The Ka came into existence when an individual was born. It was believed that the ram-headed god Khnum crafted the Ka on his potter's wheel at a person's birth. It was thought that when someone died they met their Ka. A person's Ka would live on after their body had died. Some tombs included model houses as the Ka needed a place to live. Offerings of food and drink would be left at the tomb entrance so the Ka could eat and drink. Kant. This symbol represents a lamp or brazier on a stand from which a flame emerges. Fire was embodied in the sun and in its symbol the Uranus which spit fire. Fire also plays a part in the Egyptian concept of the underworld. Kant. There is one terrifying aspect of the underworld which is similar to the Christians' concept of hell. Most Egyptians would like to avoid this place with its fiery lakes and rivers that are inhabited by fire demons. Leb. This symbol represents a heart. The Egyptian believed the heart was the center of all consciousness, even the center of life itself. When someone died it was said that their heart has departed. It was the only organ that was not removed from the body during mummification. Leb. In the Book of the Dead, it was the heart that was weighed against the feather of Mot to see if an individual was worthy of joining Osiris in the afterlife. Mot feather represents truth, justice, morality and balance. It was Pharaoh's job to uphold Mot. When the Pharaoh died, Mot was lost and the world was flung into chaos. Only the coronation of a new Pharaoh could restore Mot. Manat. This symbol represents a heavy beaded necklace with a crescent-shaped front and a counterpiece at the rear. It was a symbol associated with the goddess Hathor and her son, Ehi. In fact, Hathor was known as the Great Manat. We often see Hathor using the Manat as a conduit through which she passes her power. It was representative of the ideas of joy, life, potency, fertility, birth, and rebirth. It was not uncommon in the New Kingdom to see the king offering the Manat to Hathor. This probably meant to represent the king symbolically with the goddess son, Ehi. This idea of divine assimilation was common. Nebu. This symbol represents gold which was considered a divine metal. It was thought to be the flesh of the gods. Its polished surface was related to the brilliance of the sun. Gold was important to the afterlife as it represents aspects of immortality. By the New Kingdom, the royal burial chamber was called the House of Gold. Nekbet. This symbol represents gold which was considered a divine metal. It was thought to be the flesh of the gods. Its polished surface was related to the brilliance of the sun. Gold was important to the afterlife as it represents aspects of immortality. By the New Kingdom, the royal burial chamber was called the House of Gold. Palm branch. The Egyptians would put a notch in a palm branch to mark the passing of a year in the life of a pharaoh. It symbolized a measure of time. Pet. This symbol depicts the sky as a ceiling which drops at the ends, the same way the real sky seems to reach for the horizon. This sign was often used in architectural motifs. It symbolizes the heavens. Re. The sun was the primary element of life in ancient Egypt. We find this importance reflected in the art and religion. Some of the most popular gods had a solar connection. The sun was first worshipped as Horus, then as Ra and later as Amun-Ra. There are many other representations of the sun, including Khepri, the great scarab who symbolizes morning, and the ram-headed god Khnum representing evening. During the reign of Akhenaten, the sun was worshipped as the Aten, a form of the sun disk with its rays depicted as arms holding signs. Another common form that the sun takes is that of Horus Behudadi, the winged sun disk flanked by Uraeus. Rekite. This bird is called the lapwing. It is identified by its head crest. Its wings are pinned back, preventing it from flying. This symbol signifies a group of people. It is often seen below the feet of a ruler to signify that the people are subjects of that ruler. Rekite. In the New Kingdom, the symbol develops human arms which are held in the act of giving praise. In this form it can be interpreted to mean a group of people giving praise. Sa. This symbol means protection. Its origins are uncertain, but it is speculated that it represents either a rolled-up herdsman's shelter or a papyrus life preserver used by ancient Egyptian boaters. Either way, it is clearly a symbol of protection. From early times this plays an important part in jewelry design. It is often used in conjunction with symbols, particularly the Ankh, Was and Yed signs. We often find dirt, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth, resting her paw on a standing sign. Scarab. Called the dung beetle because of its practice of rolling a ball of dung across the ground. The Egyptians observed this behavior and equated it with the ball of the sun being rolled across the sky. They confused this bald food source with the egg sac that the female dung beetle laid and buried in the sand. Scarab. When the eggs hatched, the dung beetles would seem to appear from nowhere, making it a symbol of spontaneous creation. In this role it was associated with the sunrise. Khepri was the scarab-headed god. Sekhem. This is a symbol of authority. Sama. This is a rendering of the lungs attached to the windpipe. As a hieroglyph, this symbol represents the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Other symbols are often added to further illustrate unification. Same abound with two plants, the papyrus and the lotus. The papyrus represents Lower Egypt and the lotus represents Upper Egypt. Sama. In other representations we find two gods binding the Sama together using papyrus and lotus. Sasan. A lotus flower. This is a symbol of the sun, of creation and rebirth. Because at night the flower closes and sinks underwater, at dawn it rises and opens again. According to one creation myth, it was a giant lotus which first rose out of the watery chaos at the beginning of time. From this giant lotus the sun itself rose on the first day. She. A pool of water. The Egyptians portrayed bodies of water by means of equally spaced vertical wave lines. When these lines are enclosed by a rectangle, it denotes a lake or pool. The Egyptians believed water was the primeval matter from which i.e. creation began. She. Life in Egypt's desert climate depended on water, and a pool of water would be a great luxury. There are many tomb paintings that show the deceased drinking from a pool in the afterlife. Shen. A loop of rope that has no beginning and no end. It symbolized eternity. The sun disk is often depicted in the center of it. The Shen also seems to be a symbol of protection. It is often seen being clutched by deities in bird form, Horus the falcon, Mut the vulture. Shen. Hovering over Pharaoh's head with their wings outstretched in a gesture of protection. The word Shen comes from the word Shenu, which means encircle, and in its elongated form became the cartouche which surrounded the king's name. Sistrum. The sistrum was a sacred percussion instrument used in the cult of Hathor. The sistrum consisted of a wooden or a metal frame fitted with loose strips of metal and discs which jangled when moved. This noise was thought to attract the attention of the gods. There are two types of sistrum. Aniba was shaped in a simple loop, like a closed horseshoe with loose crossbars of metal above a Hathor head and a long handle. The Sazishat had the shape of a Naos temple above a Hathor head, with ornamental loops on the sides. The rattle was inside the box of the Naos. They were usually carried by women of high rank. Deed. The exact origin of this symbol is unknown. In many respects it resembles an ankh except that its arms curve down. Its meaning is also reminiscent of the ankh. It is often translated to mean welfare or life. As early as the 3rd dynasty we find the teeth being used as decoration when it appears with both the ankh and the Died column, and later with the wasp. The teeth is associated with Isis and is often called the knot of Isis or the blood of Isis. It seems to be called the knot of Isis because it resembles a knot used to secure the garments that the gods wore. The meaning of the blood of Isis is more obscured, but it was often used as a funerary amulet made of a red stone or glass. In the late period the sign was associated with the goddesses Nephthys, Hathor, and Nut as well as with Isis. In all these cases it seems to represent the ideas of resurrection and eternal life. Uraeus. The cobra is an emblem of Lower Egypt. It is associated with the king and kingdom of Lower Egypt. It is also associated with the sun and with many deities. The cobra represented the fiery eye of Re, in which two Uriah can be seen on either side of a winged solar disk. Starting in Middle Kingdom the Uraeus appears as a symbol worn on the crown or headdress of royalty. It is used as a protective symbol. The Egyptians believed that the cobra would spit fire at any approaching enemies. Ashubtas. Literally translated it means to answer. It is a small mummiform figure placed in tombs to do work in the afterlife on behalf of the deceased. In some tombs of the late New Kingdom whole gangs of Ashubti workers were included with different tools for doing different work. Was. Or sculpture. Literally translated, it means to answer. It is a small mummiform figure placed in tombs to do work in the afterlife on behalf of the deceased. In some tombs of the late New Kingdom, whole gangs of Ashupti workers were included with different tools for doing different work. A complete collection would consist of 401 Ashupti, one for each day of the year, 365 plus 36 form, winged sun disk. This is a form that the god Horus Bihu deity, Horus of Edfu, takes in his battles with Seth. The god Thoth used his magic to turn Horus into a sun disk with splendid outstretched wings. The goddesses Nekbet and Waze in the form of Uranus snakes joined him at his side.